Huh? Oh, wow, it's the Pendog Creative Library. That's a surprise. Or not. I took a long rest last time we were here, and I know what must have happened. I told you to go ahead and browse around yourselves, and I fell asleep. Long enough to change seasons and my form. Go to sleep a cat, wake up a hare. But hey, a little more thematically on point for a land of tunes, right? You've not been waiting too long, have you? It's been about 9 months? Okay. Well, let's see here. The itinerary. Okay. Yeah, so I had a plan and a way to do this last time in the first tour, in a very different mindset. If you haven't seen that yet, by the way, do a little time warp and view it first, or nothing's gonna make sense. It's like stepping into the second season of a TV show, or waking up in the middle of a tour that you had planned. Anyway, I think we spent 2 hours just introducing the main layer before, and that's a little long-winded for just a guided tour, isn't it? You know what? It's spring, the tempo is up. Let's not labor the points. We're going to go at a hair's pace and allowing anybody who didn't know how to enjoy the material a moment to do so. We view the areas, you get a chance to dive in deeper at each junction in your own pace, and we'll keep on moving along. The timeline approaches back with a little more rapid pace and guidance. Open a tab with the Pendog site, listen closely for moments you can examine the fullness of a wing, and poke your head in. It'll still make a cohesive picture. Gives you a little bit more opportunity to savor and explore the work of dozens of artists. First though, in recognition of our higher beats per minute tour, let us give a little gratitude to our sponsor for this journey, continuing with us from Tour 1, Raycon. It's spring, and in any gallery or garden wing, you deserve maximum quality of sound as you're moving around. Walking off the last of winter's chill, doing spring cleaning, or vibing with upbeat music while running errands, Raycon's essential open earbuds make the perfect audio partner. I like to cook fairly often in my spring cabin and stroll the neighborhood in its livelier hours, and it's good to keep my ears open to anything that might get my attention while I enjoy new albums and podcasts. Thankfully, the design of Raycon's essential open earbuds let them sit just outside your ear canal, always providing clarity of sound and environmental awareness. And if you're out enjoying nature, as I like to do, you can trust the light design and rotating ear hook to keep Raycon's essential open earbuds securely in place while being comfortable. For a lot of high leg movement on uneven surfaces, that's mandatory. In the warm season, I listen to so much more while I do so much more. Gardening, walking, spring cleaning, workouts, maybe a little home improvement here and there. And that makes the 8 hours of playtime and 36 hours of battery with a charging case deeply assuring. The essential open earbuds are the perfect addition to your everyday routine. Go to buyraycon.com/nightmindopen to get 15% off, or just use the link in the video description. Over 3 million customers are enjoying superior sound and comfort now, and if you don't like them, they have a 30-day guarantee. Again, just go to buyraycon.com/nightmindopen to get 15% off, or use the link in the video description. Thanks Raycon for sponsoring. Naturally, you'll find your earbuds quite fitting for our journey through the ARG layer of the Pendog Creative Library. Take a moment to grab a refreshment, or snack, or warm up your legs and mentally prepare. And do remember the guidance timeline is available to use at any point. Remembering what we uncovered before and Minerva Wolfel's guidance, let's acknowledge what scanning the site reveals. Amy's Halloween party viewing of the Miss Hakate tape isn't the only hidden ghost text, and we'll find out much more about that night by looking around. On the Creative Archive's main page, we have Brian's story. He never liked Ian, aka Ikak, not since he heard the guy saying something so out of pocket it got him kicked from their philosophy class. The two had bonded over media preservation and started Found Finders. A lot of good work had been done in the club, leading to the recovery of the VHS tape, when they had both known they struck it big. Brian kept to himself at the party, preferring to stay out on the balcony and smoke. For some reason, he knew he wouldn't work with Ian again in the future, and despite their discoveries and the importance of their work, didn't feel like he had done much to better the world of art. As Ian cheered in drunken revelry, Brian stood off to the side, shoulders hunched in guilt, waiting for judgment to end his sleepless nights. It said he cried in relief when something wonderful occurred, and his tale ends. You can find Andrew on the Creative History page. He'd been invited to the party by a friend of Ian's, and truthfully never liked parties, but had been coaxed out of his dorm when his roommate mentioned the special feature of the night's events, a rare showing of an even rarer cartoon once lost to history. He'd never felt so much anticipation from just noise and lights and colors. No, anticipation of seeing history. He braced against the flashing lights and high-pitched sounds of the party, forced his stomach to settle itself, and meekly tried to make conversation with one or two people, but soon hunkered down in one of many living rooms in a surprisingly affluent family's home. He stood up as he heard cheering and Ian's voice in another room. Anxious not to miss the big event, he stepped into the central room and just joined the cheering when he was cut short. The character index page mentions Beverly, who didn't know the deal about the tape or history of art. She just wanted to party after a recent breakup, mingling between bodies and gaudy costumes. Drinks mainly occupied her time, and getting lost in the intoxicating sway before the VHS played. It led her to the bathroom sink to clear the overindulgence, followed by sobbing. She looked out the window a moment, suddenly understanding something in the night sky. Then commotion erupted from the other room, and her tale was cut short. Irene and Hank are both found on the Q&A page. Irene had been contemplating telling her new friend group her name was really Irene and not Kennedy at the party, but once at the party, it didn't seem reasonable or logical. Instead, she sat by the side, watching the activity and hoping for a moment to sneak out with a friend or two, but the idea of seeing something lost to history did entice. But if the rumors she'd heard about how it had been obtained were true, well, the thought filled her with bile. She jolted when the music kicked in, lifting her head. Hank attended with friends, but parted from them in the crowd. He'd been dancing with a stranger, feeling freer than he'd been in his life, knowing he'd sleep in the next morning and skip classes and love it. But until then, he would sway, weave through the crowd, live on the electricity in the air and catch a piece of history to rock the art community, a moment away from meetings to schedule. The last note before experiencing something miraculous was that the walls were blindingly white. Plenty of different perspectives here, and more can be found in links through the red decorations on the homepage. Georgie, Owen, and Matthew are discussed here, and we'll start with Georgie. Buries her guilt better than Ian. In the business of lost media discovery, hoarding and cutthroat obsession were the only things that got you ahead of the others, so when Ian had presented them with the tape, she had been the loudest of the cheering members and had brushed off any concerns that the others might have had about what had been done, or the possible consequences. She was a great archaeologist of art. That's what she tells herself as she lies awake at night. Memories of emails and pleas to be left alone haunting her every thought like drops of water eating away at great statues on the edge of history. And of course, as the music in the party shifted, Georgie's experience ended. Makes you wonder just what they did to get this tape. Doesn't sound happy. Owen's tale was about wanting to fit in, but never getting along with other artists in his generation. The Misakate tape viewing still drew him in, and even if dubious about the importance of the cartoon, felt excitement in the air at the party, and that he'd begun to fit in after all, as the air began to feel thinner. Matthew thought about telling Hank they should head out. Too many people talking about topics he couldn't contribute to made him uncomfortable. Not enough hits on communicating the way he could with friends back at home. He went outside at the party, sharing a cigarette with a morose-looking peer, Brian. A passing exchange about why things are changing the way they've been didn't pan out, with Matthew too drunk to understand Brian's muttered response. When he went back inside to get Hank, he turned into the living room to see the most beautiful sight, and no more. If we go back to the Misakate page and check the invitation on the lower right, we find a password-protected page. Do you remember the spectrogram from the audio clip in the first tour? Percy Fawcett? He was born in 1867, went missing in the jungle looking for the lost city of Z, 1925. The page we're trying to access is The Jungle. You can try Z as a password, but to no avail. Use 1925 and get entrance to the party. Attempt to play the clip before the party, and you'll see a video download titled, You Missed It. This is related to an invisible box over the audio player. You're able to check out the video and what exists to this audio if you inspect Element and delete the top box. Audio is titled, Invited, Another Spectrogram. It reads, The party. It hasn't started yet, but you were invited. Why aren't you here? Why weren't you at the party? You were invited. You didn't make it. The party. The party. The party where everything happened. You missed it. You missed out on becoming history. You missed the party. Everyone else was there. Don't you feel left out? You missed something wonderful. You lost the chance to be part of something beautiful. As for the video,
Something wonderful. Special. The party. Something wonderful. The party.
the haunting party has made an impression on the site. Investigating may turn up more about the event and, naturally, Miss Hecate. Let's try picking up a hint given earlier about her, the Red Lipstick Trail. We first saw something like that on the Bartleby Brand's tour package. If you look at the page again and its description, you'll see a link in the words, a constant hum. Talk of human senses and their fallibility fills the page, leading to discussion of thought, which brings you to the unnamed speaker. A call to come closer in the darkness follows, growing stronger. And in the center of it all, we see a character in a bee costume with a jack-o'-lantern bucket. Click to open Charlotte's story, a woman wistfully walking a neighborhood during trick-or-treating hours on Halloween. The town has changed over time, and she feels it, looking for the happiness that remains after the fire that touched the sky all those Halloweens ago. It's in the middle of her walk that a wave of nausea strikes, and her head fills with lyrics she doesn't recognize. Out of the darkness, a hand grips her shoulder, steadying her, belonging to someone who is unnaturally tall, with a goofy yellow grin that matches oversized yellow gloves and cat-like yellow eyes. An amazing costume, a broad-brimmed hat. Is she trying to be some sort of detective? It throws Charlotte into hysterics. What a laugh! She gets up and walks home. The doors are locked, the television unplugged. Her parents don't ask why she's returned. It's written. There is no question to be presented. The answer was known from the touch of a yellow-gloved hand. Halloween in this town is to be spent inside, if not celebrated at all. This is a different entity than what we see in the beginning from other clues on the night of the Halloween party. The Red Lipstick Trail brings us to Bartleby, with yellow text now, and a yellow-coated entity. Brings to mind another intriguing message related to Bartleby. Do you remember this odd art piece from Penny's Updates? Click on it, and find a whole page of flowers titled, My Blessing. There's text behind these, but we'll need Minerva's methods to get to it. My blessing, you have earned it. Wishing you sweet honey dreams, absent of lipstick red. Definitely different than anything associated with the Miss Hecate tape. That being said, what leads are there on Miss Hecate after this? Maisie is worth a look, right? Review the material and you'll see the sketches page in her creative archives. Glance at the description and find an underlined letter A. That's a link. Now we're in a clearing in the woods and stumble across a bunch of punks in a truck and a sound clip. M. Mutt.
Oh, are you? You shouldn't be over here, friend. It's not safe. Although, if you are like me, that must mean you are destined to wander. A boon for me, a curse for you. Even if the thrill of discovery clouds your mind. There's danger for those who wander so deeply. Things less friendly than I lurk here. That desire to know is overpowering. I can't stop you. I can't protect you, but I can give you warning. So heed my words. Be careful, you careless wanderer. Be careful, my friend, of the Red Lipstick Trail. Be careful of her, my friend. Be careful. Careful.
Click on the truck, and you'll find the story, All American Halloween, the tale of Curtis and a couple friends. It is 7 pages long, but it does make for a good scary side story, and does bring Maisie, in a fashion, into the picture. Take a peek if it interests you. And there's more evidence of characters speaking to us. Maybe. Maisie the Mutt is absolutely donning Hakante's colors and is steeped in association with her underworld history, but Maisie's warning us away from the red lipstick trail. All the more reason to keep in mind we may not be dealing with who we're told, and to be suspicious of this audio clip actually being Maisie. The odd pictures of a Dorothy Do book indicate things can be a little more paranormal out here, but let's not count out that the team behind the site may be a little susceptible to these influences. If there's any ability to get on a microphone and treat the audio, how do we know this is Maisie? Especially after that Lifeline page informed us some of the team may be spellbound. This is a moment in which you can truly wander around a bit as you see fit, since connective tissue and leads we have aren't direct guiding arrows on a linear trail. You could follow Maisie in a line, or we can check what Minerva gave us in a poem, which may still run into Maisie's area. In the video description of the Troy Beauty Brand's PSA, we got a link to a password-protected page, Inferno. This poem by Minerva relates to Dante's Inferno and the Rings of Hell. If you assign the numbers for each ring mentioned in order of the poem, it gives a numerical password to the Inferno page, letting you into a secret area, backed by an image of some bloody weeping holes in someone's arm. I'm only blurring this because it's a damn good job done on the makeup, like, whew, some of you won't be able to look at this. You can use the instructions I just gave to see it in full. The text on the page is transcribed by Vincent Teller, Pendog historian. Interview between Vincent Teller and Kelly H. about her experience with Helena Beauty Brands. Kelly H. was one of the little girls impressed by Helena Troy back in the 60s. Helena was a big name, she said. People were excited about their products, and looking at it now, I'm not sure why people were that excited. I've done my own digging, for closure, you understand, and the products that they were selling honestly weren't all that special, maybe even sub-quality compared to what was being sold at the time. I guess the power of marketing made up for the lackluster nature of their products, though. The sensationalism of it all, and the excitement of new big labels with a cute cartoon on them too. Kelly had signed up to a mail-in form to be a special guest at the expo, receiving free Helena dresses and beauty products to demo in a live advertisement. She won, and on the day of the expo, she was led by a Helena representative to a large half-circle stage to join several others, including young girls like herself. The skin cream, that revolutionary new product, was up for demonstration, and so they performed the application. She went home, slept deeply, and woke around 4 in the morning screaming as it felt like the skin of her arm was trying to pull away from her body. Vincent wrote, at this point in the interview, Kelly holds up her right arm, the back of it covered in several circular scars that run in a pattern down her skin. Kelly expressed she was told she'd probably never use that arm fully again. The pain from that night would return now and then. A welting, seething burning that felt as if my arm had actually been lit on fire, as if someone was trying to burrow through my skin and into the open air. A rush to the hospital may have saved Kelly's life. Some others experienced the skin cream's effect eating all the way down to their bones, and for those who applied it to more than their arm at the expo, delayed reaction after contact, severity worsened over time, Kelly was told. A big trial against several executives followed, who paid for survivors' rehabilitation. The company shut down, and the people who made the call to rush testing of the cream presumably went on to work at other companies. The title of this interview page is Wormholes. Now, it would be good to indicate something we'll need to come back to, which Minerva clued us in on. Where I Scream It All Out, Penny's personal underworld blog, found through a link in About Me on the About Us page. The password changes each update, and is related to the context of the updates, which is what Minerva's getting at in a hint. It's good to come back and read Penny's feelings as a result of each major beat, like the Kelly H interview over Helena Troy products. This Is My Special Place to Cry is the starting blog, where Penny will share private thoughts. I've Been Thinking a Lot comes next. Can you believe this shit? I get more and more emails about it every day now, all babbling on about how excited they are for me to discover more about Hakante's history and how they adore her so much. It's tiring. I genuinely hate this character so much, or the person she reminds me of. If it wasn't for how excited everyone was, I would delete everything I found of her out of spite towards him. But every time I go back to the site to delete articles and make an announcement about ceasing investigations into the character. Penny then writes of overwhelm pertaining to good memories of Ian, or Ikak, and guilt and conflicting feelings over the relationship. It's been clear already from the notes we've had in character stories, but Ian's capacity for working in a lost media discovery was disagreeable to a lot of people. Penny's dealt with depression relapses in moments thinking of their last conversation, and it's made work on the site or even art for herself very difficult. It's bad enough, the stuff with that other person, she says, alluding to a dynamic we'll take a look at later. Did you know being obsessed over is very tiring? Even if I want to do right by her memory, I still resent what she put me through. There's also the guilt of, if I'd known what Ian and his friends were doing, and taken the warning signs seriously, I may not be responsible, but I was a bad friend to him, to the team. The weight of knowing everyone who's helped Penny is a lot on her, and reason to stick it out. She's not doing so good emotionally though, and could use healing. The idea that Ikak's discovery of the Miss Hikate VHS tape involved more than a lucky break is gaining weight. Now, to stay in line with Penny's updates and reactions, we'll have to swing around to different sections. There is one place we haven't gone on the site at all though. The Imaginarium, where the friends who raised us go to rest. It's a submissions page for imaginary friends, a collaboration between Penny and the team member Bellyup, who has a link to their name. Turns out it's Bellyup's personal blog, which is also password protected. The Imaginarium contains plenty of submissions, but also an oddity, this polka dot map of red and pink. This must be used for the password, just gotta find out how to apply it. There are polka dots in the top section of the site, and at the bottom we have a lot more. Pink-purple, all around this character that seems to have fallen out of the main page. If we take a moment to try Minerva's guide and hit Ctrl-A to select all, we find highlights on spaces without dots. Hover over them and discover links. The overall page construction contains clickable zones through polka dots and spaces around them, culminating in a lot of pictures that reveal this creature lurking in the dark of someone's home. The only exception is this guide, which fits well over the polka dot mapping. Don't be fooled by the letters on this. It's the number filled in red dots along each arrow path that you want, forming 32233. Plug it into the password prompt and Bellyup's blog opens. I invite you to walk in and read to whatever depth you like. The nature of this tour, of course, is guidance with deeper exploration available to you, and there's a lot to Bellyup's blog. So this is a moment to acknowledge that my summary doesn't necessarily match your ability to undergo a fulfilling engagement with the art to your satisfaction. If you want the total experience, go on in. Bellyup's tale begins with running into an old friend, Danny, and realizing they'd fallen out of touch and didn't have terribly much to talk about. The point of sharing common ground, artwork, wasn't much he could use, since they just graduated from art school, and none of what he wanted to show was ready to be seen. Thoughts of how the conversation was awkward kept Bellyup awake. He begins reflecting on memories of childhood, back when he and Danny were still close. He goes through old things and even finds their old fort, as well as drawings of characters. Mr. Obble, Lady Lampshade, the Wart Monster, and Captain Cadaver, the character from Dorothy Doo. Bellyup's misfortune continues from here, told by their parents to get a normal job for now and begin paying rent, leading to arguments he isn't putting enough effort into something, despite working on a storybook. Getting a job at the old corner store makes him aware the shopkeeper who was so friendly in childhood doesn't approve of him as an adult. Danny stops in, making for another interaction, with Bellyup giving his number and seeing potential to hang out later. The next post is without a title. Why didn't he give me his number? Bellyup spirals a bit in response, thoughts going to not being much of an artist after inability to draw for a while, until Danny texts with a birthday party invite, and Bellyup mistakes the atmosphere of the occasion, going in clown makeup, which turns him into an embarrassed and anxious mess until leaving early. I feel like a freak now, Bellyup writes. Why can't it be easy to be liked by people? Why do I constantly push people away and annoy them? He plummets. Sadness, angry panic, and lonely desperation. Depression. Penny's not the only team member of Pendog Creative Library suffering quietly with problems and looking for online vents. Bellyup calms down and apologizes to anyone reading, then slides again, thinking how things used to be happy. And then, the blog post. I remember you. A bunny arrived today. I'm back, Bellyup declares next. Things are going well. Today feels brighter, like a cloud has been lifted from my life. I think it's because I've made a new friend. She's so nice and friendly. She's a way nicer friend than Danny ever was. She actually listens. Not like the blank staring kind of listening, but she is engaged with the topic. She has questions and actual input. Bellyup showed her the blog, which she liked a lot, and said he was very creative, encouraging more drawings. And things carried on in this way, Bellyup hanging out with their great new friend, who loved them so much. Bunny says it's not Bellyup's fault others can't understand how special and creative he is. She doesn't have a place to stay, so I've been sneaking her into my room. I made her a little bed in my closet. I didn't want to write this down, because I'm scared my parents might find this blog one day, but my friend said it was okay to tell you guys. That will make the blog more exciting and personal. On a walk, Bellyup takes a picture of her in a polka dot jumper. They also idly mention how odd it is that there don't seem to be as many animals out recently. Used to be that there was a very large stray cat problem. As for what happens after this, it's a lot more fun to engage with directly and enjoy Bellyup's developing relationship with this entity. The moments of shocking seriousness, late night staring at TV static, an increasing amount of oddly colored fur in the house that Bellyup's allergic to. Bellyup's last post reads, "Bye for now," and tells us their friend asked him to stop posting so much and spend more time with her. "Wish me and my friend luck," he writes, posting a picture. Penny may have lost yet another teammate to mysterious forces without knowing, and it is very clear now that many supernatural forces are in the library. The side blog approach to Bellyup's storytelling and the interactions between an artist and a creation in this way is a wonderful addition to Pendog, illustrating that phenomena occurs with other team members is important for building up the world. And this tale of intrusive entity relationship development gives us much to think about over ways downtrodden, creative, and friendship-challenged people deal with situations. The tale of Bellyup's artistic woes and depression reminds us of Penny, but it also brings Jayne to mind, and her relationship with Slishy Slasher. These two pieces under content warning, Weeping Lips and Slishy Slasher Concepts, deal with the character's affinity for cutting and cartoon violence with blood involved. Weeping Lips involve the rubber hose inspiration Penny mentioned early on, which led to a friendship. This piece deals with quite a bit of brutality though, expressing hatred of other speech. Slishy Slasher Concepts explore the friendship-killing aspect, with the gore on the left under Friend Sick, related through hearts. Penny notes how the puppets were an expression of how she felt like a puppet trapped in her household, and the Slishy Slasher butchering them was a form of self-harm. Paradoxically, the slasher and her victims are both representations of Jayne Prowl. At the bottom of the page, we have a hyperlink just sitting by itself, the letter A, like we caught earlier with Maisie. Click through, and we're suddenly in a different world, Slishy waving around next to a pair of PDFs and above another character image, a police officer. On the left, an instruction in riddle. To see the truth, you must desaturate your mind, then focus on a black point that lays so deep inside. Take what brightness is in your heart and turn it down to low. Contrast your thoughts against the mark, and finally, you will know. Image adjustment and an editing program. Easy. Wingding's font. Translations read, "Don't you pity me? All you ever wanted to do was sabotage me, and now you get to have my friends and get away scot-free. It's not my fault. It can't be my fault. I'm the victim here. You all are just too self-centered to see. I've seen what's on its way, and it makes me laugh knowing I'm going to get to see everything you've built derail and you get to see what I've gone through." The story of the police officer is in the same town as Charlotte, which alluded to the Halloween party fire. It turns out this is the location of that tragedy. The perspective of the officer doubles down on what Charlotte's story hinted at. The place just deteriorated after the event, from what could have been called a city to a town and eventually a sad street, and Halloween became low in regard for celebration. The officer is haunted by it too. The location of the tragedy gets most of his focus now on patrol, especially on its anniversary night. It's during patrol that he encounters an aspect that, in its emergence, we now understand as a result of that night. Emerging from the dark in its heart of violence, Slishy Slasher, making a mess of the officer. This is a pretty big reveal, looping Charlotte and the officer's stories into the picture of Halloween after the fact, and the story of the punks from Maisie's place, if you take a moment to look. It's as if the tape viewing cursed the Pendog Creative Library chain in a way that transmuted their creativity, where the characters they were researching. Now entities are in this place. I'll mark that Maisie audio from earlier as legitimate in light of this. It's getting very clear now, the supernatural aspects. On the slasher page, we find the files to the right are scans of Jayne Zine, a small art magazine she composed, 3 issues: Invitation, Cattle Slaughter, and Motherhood and the Sun. Jayne sees the invitation of someone like herself into another's life as similar to that of a nuclear bomb, hurting and irradiating everyone in their path. With this in mind, I must ask what happens when you let individuals into your community for the sake of hearing all sides and perspectives. Is every perspective really as needed and valuable as the other? The talk that goes on from here, relating some people to viruses or wolves in fleece, is very clearly how Jayne knows herself, and Penny's background info on Jayne's self-image allows greater clarity on this. A lot of dark poeticism and consideration of invitations to certain people, and those who invite them, is explored in text and illustration. There's a thematic discussion of artists dying and their work becoming invitations too. Anything lost becomes an invitation to find, at all costs, Jayne writes, speaking heavily to Penny's mission in Pendog, and to the degree that we're aware, it cags. Not that it's the only lost thing in the matter of Jayne Prell that Penny's gone too far into a sense of responsibility trying to discover. If anyone's still concerned over the very odd inclusion of Jayne and Slishy in the Pendog site against the gallery, that does make sense. Notice what Jayne is saying here in a zine that's about her interactions with other people. An invitation can be a deadly thing, something so freely given we don't even think about the consequences. It is the seed that can sprout into a great tree or a rotting malignant root. That being said, can the invitation be taped back together, however messily? Can it be taped back together and taken back? Jayne discusses death in Cattle Slaughter, starting with how often it's dealt with using art. This is a more inventive zine, utilizing plenty of graphics and text. I've realized the greatest failure of an artist is to die and have your art say nothing but pretty words that decorate the homes of rich people, Jayne says. That is true failure, a blank cultural slate of banal nothingness. And so I do not regret making the character and the art in which I express myself, because whose fault is it if they misinterpreted it? My art does say something about me and the world that I live in. That I exist in this state at all in the world speaks to its many cruelties and injustices. Again, the way Jayne knows herself, vary in the slant of what we saw in the squares earlier. It's all about the many cruelties and injustices of life that she exists in the way she does. It's the fault of the others. Give a nod to her viewpoint on the value of art while we're here. She goes on to elaborate on how death is inherently part of the process of art. In the final work of art is lasting memory and connection, which is beautiful. There's a very positive look on death here, much in the way Maisie the Mutt presents it. Here, we see the art speaking on itself from across wings of the museum. Jayne then brings up Dylan Rose, a musician who appears on the occasional album cover but ultimately has very little said about him. A man who ultimately did not believe the ideals of an already very idealist movement he appropriated, who professed freedom and a vague idea of peace, but sold out others to state violence the moment they angered him. He is not even mentioned in books about hippies, which, I will admit, I have read many. For as brief and eye-catching, ear-catching, his music was just that. Brief. Are you making the most of your time? Are you saying what you want to say with your art? If you were to die tomorrow, what would your art say? Would it read as the most sincere you? Please think on this. Jayne's ideas of her own sincerity versus that of someone like Dylan Rose is clear. While Dylan couldn't square his use of police connections to plot murder with the peace and love music he made his identity, she believes herself sincere, that her art says something about her and the world she lives in. Jayne's attitude shifts in Motherhood and the Sun. I thought things were getting better. I thought I was getting better. But they aren't. I'm not. I'm still the same old plain Jayne that got thrown away. I wish it would all end, but I'm a coward. I don't have much time left. My loans are soon to enter repayment and homelessness is looking inevitable. These zines used to be the way I distributed my thoughts, but my thoughts will never be heard again, I'm afraid. I thought I'd made my peace with this, with death. But oh God, I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to die. It's so unfair. Jayne speaks to her situation in topical discussion. The view of parenthood as ownership and the treatment of children as pets. Jayne sees the viewpoint of a parent to a child as the cultivator of a canvas planet to install their own intentions, ideals, and personality. It moves into the negative much quicker, talking of parents as an entire group of people living in abhorrent treatment of their children. then how much better children deserve, then her own moment, her own helplessness and experience, and next into despising other people she asked to help her. I hope their digital safe haven rots, that all the safe spaces and good vibes only forums and group chats and servers corrode and die. Let them see how miserable and helpless it can get when you're someone like me. Jayne's mix between analyzing her mother and expressing her fear moves into victim mentality with touches of entitlement. Others might be able to pull me out, but they value comfort over any actual action. It's easier to claim you are an ally and an activist for change than it is to actually deal with the people victimized by this country we live in. It's then immediately into the flip side of victim mentality, an unworthiness to good. Not that I deserve it. I've been cruel. I've been unkind. I deserve everything I have coming. Then it's immediately into victim mentality again with emotional violence. But so do a lot of people that did me wrong. She hopes her spite outlives her, that it manifests in some tangible way that makes them regret hurting her and not helping her, that makes them regret laughing at her situation, that tears them to ribbons, that cuts their ribbons, that pulls them apart and fills them with deep blue sadness and throws them down to the deepest, murkiest, blackest pit, so that they can know how she felt and experience a fraction of empathy. Jayne didn't get to finish her zine for Slishy Slasher, so she'll remain as bitter and angry and lacking of resolution and closure as she would. Putting down the zine, if we take a step back and then scroll just a bit, a blood drop appears, smiling. Do we follow? Down, 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 to a puddle and a message. Hi, nice to see you tonight. Let's take a walk together, yeah? Come on, I carved an opening just for you. And here we meet, Slishy Slasher. A nice walk, isn't it? She asks, then talks about nights in the city, walking with Jayne, thinking about the hundreds of strangers. Slishy offers us something. And we've gone enough time with Jayne zine, just witnessed her intention for the slasher, and seen the officer's story and how he ended meeting the slasher. It is an act of self-respect to keep our distance. Looking down the street where Charlotte once met a different creature, the walk with Slishy Slasher is long, laden with memories of Jayne, her thoughts, her feelings, and the varied emotional states she experienced. She'd get obsessed with people who showed interest, and trouble would follow. Those relationships would end. She'd try to reflect and find her fault in it. Then she'd turn to rage and fear, villainizing them. Invention of reasons she was the victim in a horror movie came next. Clearly, this recent rejection was another asshole in a long chain of abusers who had hounded her since birth and kept her away from the fire whenever she tried to get warm. As Slishy will tell you, she'd go, I understand. This is what I did wrong, and I don't hate them anymore. I understand why I'm no longer allowed around them. I'm going to move on and make new friends. She'd fall asleep with her mind at ease, and wake up the next day full of rage and loathing, her mind switching to projection and blaming others. Jayne is worthy of compassion and deserving of healing. Her situation, from the mental to the emotional to the circumstances at home, is immensely difficult. This person has struggled a lot under a sense that she was headed to demise. It is still as clear to us, as it is to Penny, as it was to Jayne herself, that nobody deserves to deal with her negativity and emotional violence in all its retributive insistence. If you walk with the slasher, you will witness a down spiral of emotional turbulence into intellectual word salad railing against everybody and anybody, justifying violence towards society itself and making Jayne alienated. A dynamic that Slishy and Jayne understood wasn't healthy. That's how Penny came to separate herself from Jayne, finally expressing, I don't feel comfortable around you. Please leave me be. In the end, we learn that one day she is forced outside the house to walk and not take up space. The slasher's viewpoint, and Jayne runs into a teacher she hasn't seen since high school, who mentioned a program for people like her. At first, she wasn't interested, but in desperation, accepted once she was told it would make the money and debt issues dissolve. The end of Jayne's story is followed by an image of her waving as if at the Halloween party. Slishy Slasher says, maybe in the future, we can take another walk. At the bottom, a bit of poetry, with some characters you can follow to another deeply long walk. On Jayne's artist page, both images around the biography can be clicked, one leading to a playlist of her favorite songs with strangely capitalized letters in the description. The other image is static, but when downloaded, the title is Capitals for the Crypt. This image needs to be decrypted using an online tool, with the capital letters as the key. The reveal tells us of Jayne's fate after meeting her old teacher. Member Evaluation, COA Chapter 11. Proctor, Marion Tack. Member, James Prell. Concerning, relocation to Chapter 5. The write-up discusses Prell being brought on during a time of duress and placed in the kitchen months ago, where she proved a very lively and radical personality amongst the staff, with a way with words and speeches when shown reciprocal socialization, and talent wasted in the kitchens. Given proper education, it was said Prell could be a valuable asset towards the organization, and had shown willingness to mold personality and ideals to keep the camaraderie of fellow organization members, with intense propensity towards getting others to follow lead. There's a mention of getting contraband art supplies, an act Prell was disciplined for many times, but potential leads Marion Tack to call for benevolence and mercy. A concerns section reads, prone to fixating on people and ideas. However, I believe this abnormality can be redirected towards our long-term goals. Former transgender individual might regress should our broader goals interfere with lingering sentimentality. Prell has shown to do near anything in the pursuit of a feeling of belonging, and would likely keep rank in order to avoid social exile. Creative writing and art drawn is a habit to be pruned out, especially that awful character drawn in every spare moment. Jayne was taken into a cult, and was forced to detransition and abandon artistic pursuits, but continued expressing herself. She also seemed to be very socially engaged. We're left wondering if this was a major factor of her staying, beyond the threat of going homeless if she left. And it's one of the major reasons that people stay in cults. If human connection issues existed in a person's life before joining, it makes it much more difficult to leave. It's unknown how this image made its way to the Pendog site, but the paranormal circumstances could explain well enough, and it's occurred in such a way that Penny remains unaware. Two drawings appear below, illustrating the point further, as Jayne talks of the costume she used to wear, and her dead name, while playing the mold that the cult is insisting she live in, and literally wearing a mask. Jayne Prell's story is tragic. A transgender woman living with borderline personality disorder on the autistic spectrum, with no support systems in any way she needed, who turned to art as the only consistent outlet, and that art developed as serving the most vitriolic of her emotions and judgments on people, life, and self. There's no part of what Jayne experienced in all her lows that was deserved under any definition, and it's easy to understand that Penny's empathy is what kept her talking. In reflecting on Jayne, Penny writes, no matter how troubled of a person she might be, she could be deeply unpleasant and had an aversion to responsibility. But some pity is earned, I think. As someone who pities her, I think I am obligated to archive her work as an artist. We can only speculate on what could have been if she just worked on herself more. It's not pity that motivates her, and no obligation exists at all. It's Penny's sense of self-guilt over her inability to assist Jayne that drives her, archiving all of this as the sole dedicated interruption to Pendog's gallery. Jayne's tribute is not just made and left alone in its own corner. It's an actual entry, maintained and updated, an act of Penny's self-injuring that's been given a lot of emotional weight. Penny is actively keeping Jayne in a place in her life that could go to anything healthier, happier, more responsible to making good in her life. The Jayne and Slasher Wing is part of a major through line in Pendog Creative Library, an insightful, unflinching, literally illustrated look at a person, the art they've made, and the ways art was used to relate to people. The design of Slish's walk is one of the most intelligently composed in the entire site, scrolling through the back and forth of the mental emotional turbulence and its illustrated moods, doing its best to deliver one of Jayne's episodes. There is so much you can analyze in the artistry of Pendog Creative Library. All the things it says, the ways it does it, the ideas and themes conveyed. But Jayne's area in its entirety compels a moment to appreciate what biographies mean in a deeper way. In the end, Jayne sits in a light cast on the rest of Pendog's human characters. A range of colors in darkness and light, contrasts of warm and cool, kind and cruel, giving and seeking, strong and desperate. All of them were looking to make it out of terrible circumstances and establish a happy ending, with eyes set on a bigger picture of the world. It takes allowing the shades of gray to understand you do want Jayne to heal and be doing good, and you don't like who she was in the low episodes and angry mindsets, diagnosis or circumstances or otherwise. You see the darkness of the harsh moments, and compassion speaks, because you understand what makes those harsh moments and why that darkness exists. In a difficult person is a hidden gallery of their difficulties, and it's not natural in us to respond to venom with more venom. It's the cure that we want to give, if we could give it. Like Penny, we recognize the learning and self-improvement Jayne knew was possible for herself might have developed if given circumstances to do so. And now we sit in the personal shade of Penny's blog, in awareness alongside her that even after Jayne, another friend, Ian, lives in her past, and the story of Belly Up and his friend Danny could have gone much better too. The lead-in for the uncharted waters of the Deep Blue comes through the Mass Foundation update, with a creative history article, The Dorothy Do Fan Club. Penny informs us the original fan club ended shortly after conclusion of the show in 1989, and for years after, many small fan clubs would come along. One, however, stood above the rest. The new Dorothy Do Fan Club, founded in 1995, financially supported by the Mass Foundation. Requirements to join were very strict, to help make sure the community thrives in a way that represents the ideals of the show. The Mass Foundation is apparently dedicated to preserving history, but with more resources and organization than Pendog. They own the largest Dorothy Do collection in the world, and conduct events for fan club members to gain insight on the show's history. Viewing their collection is exclusive to the fan club, making Penny's invitation quite special. To get in, you need 2 members to vouch for you just to apply in literal writing. 5 months to a year is the waiting period for the local organizer to conduct an interview. As for what happens after that, Penny's unsure, but it's very secretive and complicated. That second mention of the Mass Foundation is a link, showing this picture. The title of the image is, They Like Dorothy Do Too. In honor of our former friendship, I recommended your website to them. One of the images on this page, an illustration I like quite a lot, has an odd code in the lower left corner. And if you click another image, the first on the page, you'll be taken to a secret area titled One of Many. There's plenty of information here, and several items are clickable. I'm just remembering as we're here. Isn't there a Dorothy Do element we couldn't access earlier in audio? With Minerva's guidance, maybe now.
Can you hear me?
Ah, there we go. But there's something else. We already know there was some weird stuff with the info provided by the Mass Foundation, and Penny filled in gaps. How much else are we able to learn from her perspective on the secret blog? How do I even begin to describe my visit to the Mass Foundation's Dorothy Do exhibit? So much happened, and my mind is still reeling not only from that, but also from the twists and turns taken to releasing a very sorry excuse for an update. Penny was thrilled when the Mass Foundation sent an invite. She had to check its legitimacy, but it turned out legit. And they did offer to pay her way if she chose to go. She was also offered a +1, and though she asked Emma, she said she was backed up with work for the month and needed to catch up on commissions. Penny thought it would have been a great date idea, giving us surprise insight on that dynamic. She took the ruby red line, her usual, to get down to the Mass Foundation, and writes, As the train slowed to a halt, I stood up and outside the window I saw a seagull lazily pecking at a worm on a bench. I'm not sure why this detail stood out to me, but... And I am rambling, sorry. I stepped off the train and braced myself against the wind and rain. The weather gave its own impression of being out at sea, with Penny's map getting soaked as she attempted to navigate to the proper building. Once inside, she met a very old and polite receptionist who assured her they'd been expecting her arrival. Everyone on staff had been informed. Penny waited around, taking in walls of the deepest blue imaginable and the patterned contours of marble columns. A young woman named Kelly came to get her shortly, then conducted a very odd tour. Information plaques were for decoration, not reading. Organization of exhibits felt like a personal collection, with trinkets crammed on any surface they could fit. Kelly rushed Penny along the whole time and gave out incorrect dates, got names wrong, listed pop culture trivia for Dorothy Do that was false. A chemical smell permeated the air. And when Kelly completed the tour, she ushered Penny into a windowless office with a man leaning over a desk, who asked if she might wish to join the Mass Foundation. In the digital age, he felt I'd be an invaluable helper in continuing the legacy of teaching others about Barbara's work, and helping to keep the fan club active, Penny wrote. He wanted me to write an article about the characters from the show, and he had wanted the update to focus on the show specifically. She agreed, then left quickly, trying not to look like she was running. Over the next several weeks, Penny admittedly researched her ass off, doing her damnedest to get a document around 4,000 words together. Bulky, but quality. And then, after weeks of waiting for a response, I finally heard back from them with a single-word email with the document I'd sent attached. Revisions, it had said, yet the proper word might have been embellishments. The strange sense of editorial selection in the descriptions of Dorothy Doo characters from Tor 1? Now we know what it was about. The Mass Foundation has its own ideas of what works for telling people about their very sacred favorite show. Going back to the Dorothy Doo puzzle-solving area. Wait a second. This character. From the article page for Miss Hecate. Now they're here too, looking for clues. And the description and look match the entity from Charlotte's story. Who is this? And why are they on the same trail as us? Put that aside for now. I'm sure we'll learn as we continue. Let's bring back that image of Dorothy with the symbol code. This is going to come into play. The area one of many uses households, numbers for those households, and references to the objects in this code. We've got to do a little bit of map movement, but it appears there are some immediately accessible pieces of info on this page, like a slightly hidden audio clip.
I don't really understand. Can I go back to sleep?
And down at the bottom, a sketch of an art museum. A news story piece comes with it, taking us back to the city to town to street where a few years back, a raging fire on Halloween took several lives, all due to a videotape. The art museum has not shown art since a certain disaster, the most awful thing, and nothing stands up to that incredible work of violence just a few blocks away. Everyone has quit except one curator, a sickly-looking woman with mousy brown hair and a notepad, left behind when the building closed to the public, locked by careless colleagues who drove to witness something special, something wonderful at the White family house. She thinks it's been about a week since she was trapped, and it's around this time that a work of art emerges, climbing portrait frames and sculpture tables, its mewling red lips crooning at the curator whenever she passes by. Not an exquisite corpse, it said, but a corpse of a different kind of art, with shallow substance and surface-level values, claiming to have come from a great empire, the Greeks and Romans of old. Questioning the entity, the curator finds it's confusing Napoleon with Neptune, saying one comes from the other, that Archimedes was the greatest inventor of the Greeks. The curator is in a lonely existence, but can't help but feel that she, too, has become part of something special, something wonderful. This is very intriguing. It's hinting at being the force calling itself Miss Hecate, and clearly, the Halloween fire must have happened. Now, the force has moved into the local art museum, and even before the fire, something tragic occurred. Some of the buildings on this page can be clicked for information through story pieces and graphics. An ice cream parlor, an arcade, toy store. You can read these deeper for direct insights, but a general impression is made. A social turning point began making its way into this town, apparently named Twinvale, as a company began buying some of the buildings. This social turn involved small groups who found themselves consistently kicked out of businesses not purchased by the new company, and members of these groups wore white shirts and khakis, just like Jayne was made to do after being picked up by a cult. Of particular interest is the tale of the toy store, opened in 1967, built and owned by a lovely couple devoted to the overall well-being of the town. In 1985, they met a tall woman surveying the neighborhood with a magnifying glass and a sweater so green and fuzzy it almost seemed like grass. She had very vibrant eyes and claimed she'd seen a turning point in the area, that history was a dam waiting to break, and that this place would be among the many pivotal to that turning point. The summer of 1990 saw that turning point, as neighbors began to change in horrific ways. The town started to flip, the old guard replaced or driven out. In time, the couple passed away, very suddenly one night in bed, and when the toy store was purchased, it's hinted that it was converted into the Mass Foundation's Dorothy Doo exhibit. All of this, including the way Penny received her invitation and the message with it, points at the idea that behind the Mass Foundation and new Dorothy Doo fan club is the cult that took Jayne in. Jayne, still alive, kick-started events that led to the invite. This cult saw a place to convert into its own little town, and is also very strangely obsessed with Dorothy Doo. At the very least, at this moment, the pieces are on the board together. There are definite elements in the telling, while we may see the connecting points later. As for the houses and symbols, take a house description, read for the symbols mentioned, then find the number of the affiliated house. That ties the number to the symbol. So altogether, you can arrange a string of numbers, but you need to place it somewhere. Media associated with the Mass Foundation visit included this scan of a Dorothy Doo decorated birthday party invitation. Click it, and you'll find a password page titled, "He Looked Back." Pop in the code 290-685-7143, and we're in a very different place now.
$10 was
This video loops, and we're given options for 3 channels, leading to 3 different YouTube videos on the Echo Broadcasting Archives channel, bringing this thread back into play. Channel 3 plays that first Deep Blue Wave video. Channel 1 plays music titled Deep Blue. It's a good track. And Channel 2 puts a name to the cult that Jayne joined, Children of America Foundation. Their message is simple. Bring back classic Americana good old days, in the small town feel. Safe and sound and traditional. This must be the tie-in to Dorothy Doo. It represents, in their eyes, the perfect American age. It's clear what they stand for though, reading the info on what they've done with Jayne and their business buying tactics. There's a bit more media on the secret page, just some audio fun from Dorothy Doo, feeling ignored. The link at the bottom, a word on invitations, brings up Jayne's scene about invitations, a pretty direct warning. Penny mentioned in her personal blog that she might run the information from her first edition of the character's article at some point. If you go to the page she was authorized to show, a link exists in the header Puppets towards the bottom, giving a password-protected page titled Simpler Times. The way into this is through the TV sequence, which directs you to pictures of the cast through close-ups of their images. Each character relates to one of the symbols, which means a number in a string for the password. The order goes 9572083, handing you all the omitted information from Penny's article, with plenty of photos. The voice actors, who we suddenly realized just don't exist on the original page. It's like the Mass Foundation, the Children of America, don't want to acknowledge real people were behind these characters. The information on characters we receive here is a lot like the understanding that comes in studying the reality of Jayne Prell, and the reality of Maisie the Mutt and her counterculture adoption, and Penny's relationship with Ian, and the disaster of Troy Beauty, beloved by many women and girls, and, I imagine, whatever we don't know that had Barbara Massey disown R.W. Winfield as her inspiration in later years. As much light as you see here, there is a shadow. The darkness exists in the happy media too, as Barbara's characters relay their true complexity of history. Captain Lydekker, witness to a crime against nature by a superior during a war, haunted by his inability to dress the wound as a medical officer. Brightfin, the beautiful and benevolent sea monster, showing his capability for violence and hostility, as well as indifference to the morality of humans. The Mapkeeper's original voice was supposed to be Barbara Massey's lover, of which she had several as a globe-trotting womanizer with a reputation of amassing love letters. The Hang Glider, in his ignorant acts, was often subjected to violence by other characters. The floaters were meant to be a consistent reminder that those who live by the ocean often die by it. And then there's the massive redaction, Captain Cadaver. As Penny writes, in her first show appearance, the character would enter the plot mid-episode in a sudden shift of tone that was extremely startling for viewers. She would nearly defeat Dorothy Doo before being hurled into the sea by Seabiscuit. Following this, Barbara would receive a great deal of pushback from critics pressuring her to remove the character from the show. However, the author refused to comply with their demands. Barbara has gone on the record stating that she felt, although the character was scary, she was an inseparable facet of Dorothy's story. This reflected a refusal to tone down her literary works for the sake of comfort, which made the series popular in the first place. Rumor is that Barbara Massey herself voiced Captain Cadaver.
Dorothy Doo, is it? Why don't you just hand over that historian? and we can part ways. I hail from a great empire, now sunken beneath the waves. I am no pirate. I am a woman of the finer things.
Captain Cadaver's original goal was pursuit of the historian, who had a bounty on his head from his home country, where he was driven out after pulling a Galileo by proposing the nation's one true history of the world might have been incorrect. Whenever Cadaver appeared in the show, all silliness left the scene. There was no room for jokes or lightheartedness when the character was around, and even Dorothy would occasionally cower in place. This was something Barbara was extremely strict about. In the books and show, Cadaver would travel in a single rotting boat encrusted in jewels and gold. She would pollute the water wherever she went and, as shown in her art, she regularly collected body parts to add to herself. As mentioned before, in the show she would simply be thrown overboard never to be seen again. In the books, however, she would battle Dorothy at the edge of the world and fall into the water, at which point she was accosted by ancient fish hooks and nets from the past. They would tangle in her legs and arms before dragging her to the bottom of the ocean, but not before she promised.
In time, I will untangle myself and rise again.
A final secret page exists through this Dorothy 2 image. To unlock this, use the code system on the order of images from the Dorothy 2 playset as part of the media in this update. That's 306285, but we'll check that hidden audio behind the image first.
This place is so unfamiliar. It's wet, it's dark, and from every ceiling hangs fish hooks and nets. From the corners of my eyes I see figures with white shirts skirting around the stage and between the wall props. I'm shivering, and I dread what has yet to begin again.
Sounds like the Dorothy 2 exhibit by the Mass Foundation, doesn't it? Opening the password-protected page, we meet Mr. Gray, whose image is absolutely covered by the Children of America. They previously covered the voice actress for Cook on Penny's redacted media recovery page, a black woman. They're very, very conservative in their past-oriented attitude and showing it quite clearly, aren't they? Mr. Gray was the main narrator and framing device for the Dorothy 2 show, Penny tells us. An ordinary lighthouse keeper, he'd start each episode musing on places in the world, wondering where his sailor friend Dorothy might be. The lighthouse stood at the center of the world, and its light stretched across the entire ocean. Even on the foggiest nights it would cut through the dark murk. Mr. Gray would always keep the lighthouse running and, as such, was the most important character, a constant source of safety and an anchor for those lost at sea. He was also the only human actor, a character created for the show. The life of a lighthouse keeper was generally one of much isolation and loneliness. Luckily, Mr. Gray had many friends who would visit his lighthouse island in times of need. Whether that need was safety, guidance, extra supplies for ocean faring, or simply a nice chat, the puppets could always rely on Mr. Gray. At the end of episodes, Barbara herself would appear for a short fireside chat with Dorothy to discuss what he had learned on his adventures that day. These scenes took place inside Mr. Gray's cozy lighthouse living quarters, although Mr. Gray himself did not appear in these scenes. Mr. Gray was portrayed by Ken Wendell, a longtime friend Barbara met while traveling the ocean. When the Dorothy 2 show was developed, he was the first actor brought on board. Mr. Gray's presence in the show was heavily contested, both in its time and in present day. At the bottom of the page, another image covered by the Children of America.
I'm so tired. Just let me go back to sleep, please. I'm begging you. Barnacles and clams litter the floor in unnatural numbers, and from polished floorboards seawater sloshes in and out with the churning of the tide. The water creeps up my feet and to my ankles, biting at them like a many-numbered shoal of sharp-toothed fish. From above, spotlights illuminate the stage in sickly white light that boils the water and makes it scream in hissing, salty cries that resemble the howls of seagulls and the great albatross. From the audience clap a great number of people I used to know but no longer recognize in personality or form. All around me, sailors dance in stilted, forced motion with great wires leading up to nothing. I look up and see nothing. There is no longer any great hand. There is nothing. There is nothing but the great yawning blackness of the sky that reaches up unnaturally past the ceiling and into nothing, from which great strings spiral and fall in tandem with the fishhooks and the nets.
Other redactions by the Mass Foundation exist, such as the voice actor for the hang glider being a closeted bisexual and horror movie actor, some of those films secretly funded by Ivan Hoth, Maisie the Mutt's creator. The voice actor for Seabiscuit and Barbara Massey's support for wildlife conservation and laws against overhunting, and Cook's constant exploration of other cultures and learning their recipes to share with the characters, in love of a wider worldview from languages to ingredients, with no tolerance for disrespect to new dishes she'd learned. The theme work and media literacy in the Dorothy Do section concerning the Mass Foundation and Children of America is not subtle, but it is important. Media reframing to direct attention to selective cuts in worldview, or remembering in a box, is disservice to art, artists, and all that went into it. Barbara Massey was an extremely progressive queer woman who made art in recognition of the world, not simply one side of it, and it's a world in which shadow and light exist at once. The resurrected and tired spirit of Dorothy Do may recognize the faces of children he once entertained, but he doesn't recognize who they've become, as they tried to drag the world back into a vision remembered in a box, cutting away much of what they didn't learn in his stories, or accept about the people who made the art they love. The greatest irony is how much preservation and shuddering work these Children of America are attempting on a show that relayed, time and time again, how amazing the world was in its whole image, how incredibly wonderful it was to find something different out there, and that people of various backgrounds and makeups made that, and still do today, including the various lives that make Pendog Creative Library in all its facets. As part of a major Maisie update, we received comic strips for Lancer in the Inkwell. A Lancer break sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Come on, let's take a moment, get a fresh coffee, and then get back into it with some Lancer. Huh. Ah, yeah. That's fun. It's about how I feel right now, too. A whole lot of words and piles around me. This one is... It's about how I feel if a video is rendering too long for my liking. Oh, this is cute. I'm not sure what it means, but... well, it leads to a link. Let's see here. A whole lot of cutout media. And a mailman. Up on the left, we have a word on death, leading to Jayne's cattle zine. If you're lucky browsing this page, you'll see Lancer running around and back. Let's check the mail first. Gus Sanders was a man who always wanted to live here, in this suburban little paradise. For 20 years, he delivered the mail along this street, yet if one was to ask him when he started, he would say it was the Halloween of all those years ago that he began his route. Description of Gus's love of the street and its energy goes on. How good it was. How serene. Now, he hears the low reverberant sounds of a party that should not be. The night air feels pestilent since that one Halloween. Nothing good is left in this place. Would it kill the world to go back to how it once was? He wonders aloud sometimes, not realizing who or what he is invoking. When Gus starts finding presents for himself in the mailboxes on the street, he requests a new route, and when the street chases him into each new assignment, regardless of distance, he quits. That Halloween, Gus finds that the street that is now across from him is the street in which he lives. It's what he always wanted, so why can't he stop crying? I've got to take a moment to praise these illustrated story pieces found through character sprites. They make a really rewarding lower challenge scavenger hunt, building this picture of the street, this town, and the effects of the Halloween party. It doesn't just belong to Penny, the Pendog crew, and those who knew the people who attended. This is a local legend-scale haunting now, and our way in is very unique. There's one more item you can immediately click here, the scythe over the mailman's head, bringing us back to our local horror host, Minerva Woeful. It's always good to check in with her if you're feeling lost. Major updates come with Wynn's guidance. And it seems here, this past Halloween, we had a miniature update. She provides a checklist, which we've already filled most of. Kinda like doing a quest without opening the pause menu. Here she gives us one of the unfortunate buildings, and a link to a place that'll help us out. A Halloween party page, with many attendees who, surprise, are unfiction tributes. Can you name the characters from the world of art that we explore who've shown up in costume form? And while you're here, take a moment at the bottom of the page to enjoy an out-of-game conversation from Pendog's co-creators. Back to Minerva's spot, and that house sprite. It will give you the perspective of the house across the street. Literally, the house across the street from the White's home, which held the Halloween party and sits radiating the energy of the party that's never truly died. The newspaper page contains a clip related to one of Liquid Laugh's original founders, Louis Pardane, spotted leaving a bar with an unknown woman. It confirms only what we've already known. Louis and Ivan spent a lot of time together as men, with not a lot of sightings of women. Knowing history, this could have just been a beard. That's a safety measure closeted men have taken over time to create the illusion of being straight, but we'll keep an eye out for other mentions. Hey, there's something odd here. You can spot Winnie, R.W. Winfield's creation, under some of this mess. What are you doing here, Winnie? And Millie's here too. Intriguing. You can also catch an article related to the police officer death in Macyland as part of the punk scene history. A lot of the world of Pendog is really coming together here throughout its historical eras. And again, you have got to praise the dedication to all of the artwork and media crafting in this project, the various amounts and methods. This is truly an achievement. Under the newspaper tabloid about Louis and his mystery woman, a Lancer piece depicts him watching TV with a hyperlink. The description reads, "This was an art film that Jayne made. I still don't know what to think of it, putting it here for archival purposes." And then Echo Broadcasting Archives comments with a link to a video, Something Better, giving music to The Stars in Blue, Jayne's illustrated storybook for a slishy slasher. Description reads, "It's possible. I will make it with these two hands," and gives a Pendog site link, leading us around to this page titled, The Haunted Woods. We've really walked around the bend now. Watch carefully as we enter again. The movements are fast. Looks like Winnie and Millie around. A musical track plays at the bottom of the page. There are two hyperlinks you can find just moving your cursor around. One is a piece titled 1980, featuring Maisie and Rubber Hose arms in a jumble around a man with his head cut off and spine stretched out. Maisie's wielding the slasher's razor. Interesting. The other page is a transcript from Dead Dudes Discuss Radio Show, episode 20. The premise is talking about murders, it seems, and this one is a bit meta, bringing up the deaths of Howie Darnell and C. Blackwelder, hosts of the Kill the Conversation podcast, about true crime. They were fished out of the ceiling of their campus radio station, blood drained. This host tells us, the two were pulled out of the ceiling. The ceiling. Crazy, right? Hidden above the ceiling panels all up in the pipes and wiring. The building had no cameras, so things are really spooky and mysterious right now. Really cool to be alive right now when all this history keeps happening. Makes me feel like a part of it. Makes me feel like we're part of something special. And it just cuts. There's something in the background in these haunted woods. A small screenshot from a site, Homemade Detective, about the conversation killings, the podcast host murders we just heard. It reiterates what Dead Dudes Discuss mentioned. Total exsanguination of the bodies. Time window suggests it must have happened during the recording block at the college campus used for the podcast. If you're careful cutting away the trees, you can also find this odd red photo. Looks like something obscuring the corner above a fence or railing along a path. It'll bring us to this video by Echo Broadcasting, with Millie Moonbeam mourning R.W. Winfield. Uncertain what all this Winfield work is doing wrapped up in this true crime podcast murder moment, especially with Jayne somehow moving pieces. Assume no true power of control anymore in all the paranormal activity, I suppose. Another Pendog site page is in the video description, taking us to The Jungle 2, representing the Halloween party. There are photos in the background over old images of the expedition to find the lost city. Let's try to clear all these partygoers. After we get the link from this one on the bottom, appropriately dressed for this hidden expedition theme, a screenshot of a message, "Why aren't you answering?" This is a clue. There are more messages associated with sprites you can uncover if you clear the crowds, hyperlinked around, and a YouTube video.
Being called the biggest tragedy in this town's history.
I am Betty from Bluecast Radio, reporting
From
live.
Channel 9 here, we are standing outside the scene of what will likely go down as one of the biggest tragedies in American
The
history.
absolute tragedy that occurred on.
War is awaiting updates as first responders
Still don't know just what killed the
21 dead.
Fire started well after the
people are still missing after
Brute force impact of inhuman scale.
The family declined to make a comment at this time.
The video carries on in this manner, reaching much wider media and the true crime mystery circuits. Lots of people weighing in. Another Pendog site link. We'll go in a moment. The screenshots are Ian's repeated attempts to get the Miss Hecate episode on VHS, Hellish Swellish, from a woman he addresses as Miss E. She apparently doesn't want to talk, and there's something to do with the tape and her son. We learn Ian's last name is White, so it was his family's house where this party happened. Going back to the link through the media coverage video's description, we end up in the podcast room for the Kill the Conversation show, and meet the Vamp, the world's cutest killer, beloved mascot of the show, born from an inside joke about keeping a knife next to the bed in case a vampire attacked. Now knowing what we do about the result of the Halloween party, if these two manage to get close enough to that energy, or some kind of media related to the party, we can guess what happened. Especially because, looking at this creature, if you examine that photo again from the Haunted Woods and the music track, The Vamp, you can see it was, indeed, The Vamp. Under this piece, we have audio for the Bodies, Bodies, Bodies podcast. And under that, a ghostly gossip piece, True Crime for the Girlies, talking about the death of Ken Underwood, the host of Dead Dudes Discuss, who we first read the transcript from about the Kill the Conversation examinations. They found a blood trail for his body leading out of the station, and his corpse was discovered hanging in one of the radio towers. As for the audio from this Bodies, Bodies, Bodies podcast.
Hey guys, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies podcast here. Today we are going to be discussing the mysterious death of radio host Ken Underwood.
Remove more top layers. Get to some images for the original Kill the Conversation podcast, one of which has a YouTube link. Unsolved Case of the Conversation Killer, a video from Drop Dead Glamour with Natalie. Heavily distorted video, transcript and description. And if you're guessing it starts off normal and then takes a sudden turn, you get the MO by now. The X-Thread screenshot left in the podcast studio proposes a theory. A true crime media fan turned serial killer, targeting the creators. And, hold on. There's a link in the podcast studio I didn't catch. A media clip of Dylan Rose's final words. I saw my bandmates again last night, at the edge of the lawn. They swayed uncertainly in the windless night air. In their panicked eyes, I saw a desire to come closer, but something held them back. Their faces were grayer and paler than the first night I saw them. The night I almost ran towards them. The night I saw the knife in Jamie's ribs. The dog bites that tore Isaac apart. I could hear sound like a dog raising its hackles and curling its lips to growl. Tonight they stayed the same distance, but they set up their instruments and played. They played a song I don't ever remember us writing. It was one of Keith's songs, and it sent a very clear message to me. We are here as a courtesy. Get your affairs in order. It sounds as if Maisie's supernatural presence visited, and she'd already taken care of the Harmonias as revenge for killing Keith of the Inkdwellers. The last example of true crime host death on YouTube held another Pendog page in the video description in this long, bloody daisy chain. Maisie gave us a password earlier in the title of her new art piece, 1980. The first ghost on this page is hyperlinked to a piece on Penny's blog related to this whole mystery. We'll get there in a moment. In back, we have a looping clip of Maisie dancing with her first co-star, Hobble the Hound. At the bottom of the page, a party group of ghosts and ghouls. You know what to do, Minerva style. Inspect and delete. Get all the way to this dog, and find a link to a bit of writing from Pendog team member, Vincent. I just need a place to put this so I can forget about it, he says. I need to put this here so I can forget what I saw that night. Vincent had invited Penny to stay with him for 2 reasons. A podcast episode she was invited to nearby, and to get out of the city as part of her recovery for everything she's been through. It was going fantastic. Hiking and sitting by the lake did wonders. A lot of good, a lot of laughter, a lot of healing. The night Penny sat down for this unnamed podcast, the host cornered her about Ian's death. She had stormed out, and Vincent drove to pick her up early. He wanted to confront this pair of hosts, and planned to the next day, but Penny had forgotten her binder in the building. So, deciding to get my punches in early, Ian wrote. I marched out of the house, hopped back in the car, and drove down to the campus. Vincent entered the small recording room, found Penny's binder, started stalking the halls to find Howie. As he searched, an uneasy feeling came over him. It was replaced by anger when he eventually spotted an arm around a corner at the end of a hall. Vincent's energy returned, and he charged forward. The first thing I saw was Howie with his back to me, one arm raised in the air and the other limp at his side like a cut-loose marionette, Vincent wrote. He was wearing an ugly blue sweater, and in my tired mind's first reading of the situation appeared to be tiptoeing. His feet raised and his toes touched all the way to the ground, bouncing like a ballerina in a slightly swaying position. But then the slightest movement behind him caused me to reassess the situation. It looked like Howie was carrying some weird balloon. It was of a puffy-faced vampire. The mascot of his show, I think. It swayed lightly against the windless air of the building. It was an ugly thing, with eyes spaced so far apart that it appeared frog-like, and a mouth so low on its face that you could barely notice it at first. And of course my first thought was, why would Howie be doing this? Why is he carrying around a balloon at night in the radio building? Some deep, primal fear froze me in place. Vincent saw Howie's face. Dead. His eyes had collapsed inwards. His body fluids were in the swollen head of the vamp, and then it dropped Howie, and lazily floated after Vincent as he ran. There was a moment that he collapsed in the recording room, searching for shelter, but the vamp caught up and hovered over him, studying his face with huge black eyes. Vincent noticed its movements flickering, like a badly timed cartoon. Then suddenly, the incredibly warm temperature that had risen during the chase dropped. The vamp backed up, and it floated off. It was Vincent who first reported the Kill the Conversation podcast murders, after the host spoke to Penny about the Halloween fire, a move that brought its energy directly into their domain and transmuted their mascot into a living entity. As for why Vincent was spared, he writes, "It didn't give up or grow bored or anything like that. It had sensed something and backed off. I'm so scared by what that means for me." And as for Penny? No, not doing so great after that. We find out this started when she'd been researching R.W. Winfield and Maisie for an update about them. That would explain why the journey to Kill the Conversation was an odd mixture of elements. Penny was researching the topic of the Ink Dwellers and the Harmonias when her heart sunk, seeing Harmonia. Maybe I'm the wrong person for this job, because the moment I saw that art, my immediate thought was that it must be another character inspired by our local cartoon pest, Miss Akate. I had hoped, following the Helena Troy article, I'd have seen the last of her. I think I knew in my heart that I would continue following the lead. Some guilty part of me that insisted it was my job to finish the work I had started with Ian. That's when Vincent received an email trying to get in touch with her, from a local podcast looking to discuss strange deaths and phenomena related to cartoons. Penny called the number they provided, found out they read her site, wanted her as a guest once she mentioned her new research on Harmonia and the associated murders. The trip at Vincent's place was restorative. So much, in fact, she was surprised at her own cheerful nature meeting the podcast hosts. On the way to the recording room, they brought up a lot of true murders, which Penny didn't know much about. She kept mentioning the Harmonias and Ink Dwellers, but they didn't show much interest. I had to stifle a shocked sound which rose from my throat as Howie stated that the topic of this episode would be the 2023 Halloween Massacre, and that he had brought on a friend of Ian White, host of the party, Penny wrote. My entire body froze up, the safe little feeling I had cultivated during my visit crumbling around me. The glee in Howie's voice, it made me want to throw up. The casualness with which they had misled me made me want to pass out. I listened to the two banter back and forth for about a minute, making jokes about the event, hyping me up, and introducing their sponsors. The bait and switch turned to Penny to finish the act, asking her to introduce herself and talk about Ian. And so, she grabbed her coat and ran. Thinking back on it now, I'm sure that if I hadn't run into a stray dog, tripping over it and screaming as it tumbled to the floor, I'm sure I would have charged my way into the forest. Penny sat on a nearby bench, sobbing until a passing stranger stopped to help. They lent their phone. She called Vincent, and we know the rest. Penny gives screenshots of the Kill the Conversation podcast site, noting how she should have looked into it, and that they'd already covered Dylan Rose. The details in this murder, alluded to earlier, are powerful. On Halloween 1980, his body was found in the graveyard his enemy, Keith, lead singer of the Ink Dwellers, was buried. Dylan Rose was strangled, his hands chopped off, and his two surviving band members found in other graveyards buried alive. About that comment, surviving band members. Apparently, in 1979, two band members died in succession, one in a robbery-turned-murder, the other maimed and killed by a stray dog. Maisie's revenge on behalf of Keith and the Punks? Could be. You could get an answer to that immediately, by the way, if you so desire, because it turns out on this page there's an element akin to Dylan Rose's last words. Now, the link for that did have a visual indicator in the vamp heads. Elements that may draw the eye to hover using a mouse brings rewards. But in the Ghost Party page, there is a link with a major reward that has no clear visual indicator. You have to tap through the page just to see that it's there. And considering how awesome this art piece is you're about to watch, I don't believe this is a great discovery method. It might have done much better in an obvious clickable way, especially after all the layers we just went through. That's my criticism on it though. Do enjoy the actual art.
Hey guys and gals, let's sing along with me and the Harmonious. Remember, peace and love and stars above. What?
Take a look at the video description. a heartwarming episode in which Harmonia and her friends finally get to see what they've always wanted to see. Remember, Hecate, when you had your Dylan murder my Keith? If you lay a finger on Penny's sweet head of hair, I will not let you free this time. Remember what I showed you. This is your confirmation. Maisie the Mutt buried the Harmonias after Miss Hecate influenced Dylan's murder of Keith. Penny is now under Maisie's protection. She's unaware that Maisie is acting like a defensive patron. Vincent may have received this protection against the vamp, and the foundation of Harmonia is exactly as Penny suspected. And she's tired. Very tired. And she just doesn't understand how people can do anything like that podcast. This industry, this ocean of voice clips, fear-mongering, book deals, and cop testimony. So evil, I think, she says. It is a deeply evil thing, but it is also so incredibly stupid. They remind me so much of Ian, barging into people's lives, unearthing their grief, their agony, forcing them back into the past instead of leaving them alone. As for what's ahead, well, let's see here. Falling into New Habits is a major update, focused primarily on Bartleby Brands and Beatrice B.E. And after it, a lot of smaller updates, in which Penny seems a little unnatural. It turned a very hot summer for Penny and Emma, who'd picked up the Bartleby line while looking into Marina Gossamer, the only named voice actor in Beatrice's line. There's a creative history article about her, featuring these great animation clips of Beatrice's stop-motion days. The Pendog team also received a large donation of items related to the character and her owner's company's history. Interesting whenever this happens. A guide to the new items is listed for you in the update. 4 articles in creative history, and several creative archives items, which include a Jayne art piece and items for a Minerva Woelfel series, Hallowed Halls. This update includes a reflection on Penny's personal blog, Infested Spaces. If you remember that detective character from earlier meeting Charlotte, the woman in the bee costume, and you're up to the task of finding out who that is, this might be the update to do so. Looking through the creative history articles, you can read about the Bellotons and Bartleby union busting, the Bellotons being a detective agency with this modern logo. Kind of familiar, isn't it? The update in its entirety is, of course, worth your time, but secret hunters and those looking for significant highlights will want to examine certain pages. A fantastic 8-minute voice-acted storyboard of an anti-union propaganda piece featuring Seymour and Strawbetty can be viewed on Beatrice Teaches About Unions PSA. Wonderfully illustrated and acted. The archive item, Flight of the Carpenter Bee's Song, is a nice tune. With a spectrogram, we used to be together. What's that meant to mean? It could be the secret in the Bartleby Brands Mixed Candies entry, a poster announcing the collaboration of Bartleby Brands and Hecate cigarettes. We've just found the red lipstick trail. Click the image once it's centered in the slider to access the factory gardens, with Beatrice flitting about among the flowers. Several bees are on the page with their own links to a page related to one of the 5 senses referenced in the page seen earlier, found through a constant hum on the Bartleby Brands tour package page. Each bee needs its own password. There must be a way that fits for all of them. Alright, major update, little puzzle work. Could Minerva help us? Go to her page, access the window on the lower right scrolling down, and check episode 4. Inhabitable Spaces. It's 6 minutes long. I'm going to let you take it from there and wish you the best of luck accessing the factory gardens. Once you're done there, do check Penny's reflection in her private blog, Infested Spaces. Its content may help you understand the underlying activity in the following site updates, of which there are several, getting progressively concerning as they go. It pays to remember Penny's now working at the Winfield Library. She gives Life Update, showing a diorama in the building she enjoys, and informs us. I understand many of you longtime followers of the site have been frustrated, or implied such sentiments, regarding my neglect in discussing or documenting Miss Hecate, our local cartoon mystery. Truthfully, after everything that happened with Ikak, I wasn't sure if I would ever truly commit to following through on our initial mission statement. Needed time to put myself back together, I hope you understand. But she's been thinking about it, and enough time has passed to be in a good headspace to devote an update to her. One great big update compiling all the information everyone sent. Ian, I hope you're ready to see your work completed. To the best of my abilities, I'll get it done. To all of you, I'll be seeing you around. I have a feeling this update will be something really special. Then comes 7 updates of Penny musing about Miss Akate, with definite tonal change in her attitude about the character and influence throughout history. The hum is particularly striking, Penny speaking of a consistent, awful buzzing in her ears as she's worked on the update, and a very concerning piece in rolling along with it. Lately I've been listening to those old Harmonia records. I used to roll my eyes at them, but right now they're the perfect thing for calming my nerves after work. I've been thinking, and maybe it's okay not to be so uptight about what the art means, you know? And then Penny writes, I've written so much about history. The many great men, and their many actions that sink into history's soil like gravestones. But I don't think I've ever thought about my place in history, you know? I never considered or truly understood that I'm a part of it, and I'm about to be a part of it. Suddenly, for the first time since we started this site, I feel like I'm about to become a part of something special, something wonderful. And now, if you've been looking to follow along, a curious circumstance. Because depending on what time it is, you've encountered site maintenance as Penny installs the update at this very moment, or the update's literally just arrived, or you're coming in just after it's available. Or we could be hours away from the update. I don't know. We're going to see. But once it's up, you'll be able to explore the factory gardens, the slasher's second walk, the stories through sprites, and the Miss Hecate update as it's fresh and new, and the completion of Ian's work according to Penny. Are you sure you're ready for it? To be witness to something so special, so wonderful. Pendog Creative Library is massive. As if there's any other way to say it. This much artistry, these many artists, all these characters and stories and historical views. All of this media. Oh, it's a collaborative achievement in nonfiction the likes of which I've not seen before, and in all honesty, I'm not sure I'd easily see in this kind of form ever again. Believe me, as the guy who made these videos, it's a lot. It says a lot. It's done a lot, and will do plenty more. And you can gain so much media literacy material to view, discuss, and consider in its examination of the lives of artists and their creations over time. The ways we relate to them, how they relate to business, to society, the social disruption and tides of change, resistance, and overcoming throughout the modern ages. It's a fictional world, but it mirrors in its own Technicolor style. From the engagement of the public through whimsical characters to protect corporate interests to the meta-commentary of true crime media's vampirism and human death, Pendog Creative Library is invested in mining the history of this reality to examine our relationship to entertainment and its impacts on people. It is a dedication akin to a Herculean effort to conduct a project of this nature, and it's provided multiple worlds to get lost in for many nights. I don't think it's crystal ball gazing to say that Pendog Creative Library has and will inspire many artists for years. This will be a tentpole project in people's core art experience memories. The ARG elements are consistent, engaging, and intelligently designed. And you've got to enjoy a local guide in Minerva Woeful, living among the archive shelves. Side stories available in sprites are wonderful Easter eggs, and clicking images or words that unveil secret wings is a rewarding experience. The password system makes you hunt a little, but you know you're never at a true loss. The solution is in the media for the update, and it's going to bring you around to a creative treasure. One of the most surprising and directly interactive do-it-yourself measures is absolutely the site code inspection and deletion method. Nobody has shown this tactic to the best of my experience before. It can be a little laborious at times, but it is distinctly unique. I'll admit that deletion efforts to get an image with a link has, commonly, resulted in deleting the wrong thing and needing to refresh, but it's cool. You know it's cool. This is such a cool way to engage a project. Who's doing anything like it? Pendog's given me a first I didn't even know was possible in this art field, and it's worth talking about that level of invention alone. And again, when Nerva, your guide, told you it was part of the toolkit, so you won't be without the technique for something this special. An art analyst would be able to take any character in this project, their artist and the history attached, and discuss it to lengthy degrees. There is no superficiality within this work, no sizzle without steak. Come here a moment. I know your legs are tired. My throat's tired. It's a marvel we're both still standing. Come on, come over here. We got a little energy left. Look at this character banner again. Telelectric, Beatrice B.E., Maisie the Mutt, Millie Moonbeam, Lancer in the Inkwell, Dorothy Dew, Seymour and Strawberry, Wistful Winnie, Miss Hecate, Minerva Woeful, Helena Troy, and our missing character Slishy Slasher. All of them have a lore rundown in their fiction, and their creation, and the impact over time, and it's still developing. You just glance at any one of these characters, and you know the depth of the experience and information behind them, the gallery of thoughts, feelings, and attachments to historical moments throughout time, the ideas they remind us of. You can even sneak the vamp in here now, and that's a character you needed to go on your own journey to discover. That's how powerfully dense this project is. You can discover entire galleries under the surface and just know about stuff that'll never be in the public wing. This is love. To study this much history, to compose this many words, to curate all this art, get all of these artists together to deliver aspects of this world and know they built it together as one. There are creators who sit thinking, I have so much to say, and the Pendog team delights in that, replying, yes, we do too. And they go about saying it in all the wings in this digital museum. Penny's public blog, Penny's underworld blog, Jayne's tribute area, the Slasher's reveal of her underworld, the Imaginarium's cute community space, Bellyup's underworld, Vincent's quiet thanks in the about section, Vincent's documentation and writing of life in this venture and how difficult it is to witness violence. In the mix with all the abnormal and supernatural aspects, I acknowledge something I'm sure many of you also felt. The creative world's romance gone by, in all its journey variations and decades. Film, animation, print, puppetry, audio work, even the joys of an item in the home freshly purchased from the store, in its colorful packaging and characters and branding. Because it's not all evil, is it, as you look at it? This box of candy was not made by happy or well-treated people. And this box of candy still made people happy, the center of many moments of treating each other well. Captain Cadaver was the nastiest, most horrible representative of empirical and colonial abuses in the world that Barbara Massey presented, threatening an adventurous and beloved reality in Dorothy Dew's Deep Blue. And Barbara Massey, beloved showrunner, writer, and progressive activist, was most likely that character's voice, and not just her creator. This moment at the end of Maisie the Mutt's article is worth rereading. Although an immensely popular character, the details of Maisie the Mutt's history are difficult to parse. As a character with so much fame, she has equally as many varying accounts from individuals and organizations. We are dedicated to helping you understand the true Maisie, the Maisie of all sides and angles. The graveyard is a land of many lives, many moments, many perspectives, all of them contained in every coffin. Where one might lay a rose in love, another would piss in scorn. And these emotions exist at once. History is a 20-sided die. Pick odd, pick even, a single or double digit, and it still will reward you with 1. Penny's viewpoints and voice are evident in articles. Yes, she is opinionated, and she is going to present in her bias, historian or not. And she still acknowledges she doesn't contain the totality of anything to look at. No authority. She is unable to look at anything she's experienced or anyone in a singular manner. Yes, and is a statement that echoes down all the halls of this place. The space beyond that and is large enough for all what may be made in consideration of what's come before it. And in analyzing everything that has been placed before you, ask yourself, is the darkness of every scary whisper you've ever heard, a loving replacement for the truth of a face that you've never actually seen. If you care to look. At present moment, Mirphy, the creator of Pendog Creative Library, could use your help in final preparations for an unexpected upcoming move. And assistance in this matter would grant safe housing, not simply the continuation of Pendog. She is 83% of her goal at this time of recording. Maybe it looks different on screen from the screenshot, I don't know. Maybe it's 100%. And still, a contribution, however small, would go a long way in supporting no matter what. Or a continued small monthly donation. It always empowers the artists we love in ways that may never be known how much it helps them. I've placed the link in the video description. If you've enjoyed this journey, please do consider helping out. I've spoken before about the incredible achievement of Pendog Creative Library as the largest unfiction project collaboration I've witnessed, and I reiterate this point. You can view the credits page by going to About Us on the site, scrolling to the bottom, and clicking Project Info, then scroll a bit past the content warnings. Links for artists are all throughout, so go check them out and their various availabilities for support. Look at this incredible, wide array of varied people all coming together for this purpose and showing their artistry. Bravo, and thank you, every single one of you. If you're interested in anybody's work here, give them a follow. Thanks again to the whole Pendog team for making Pendog Creative Library. Thanks to Raycon for sponsoring this journey for both tours. Thanks to Moon, my editor, for visual contributions to the second tour and an amazing job once again on the first tour. Thanks to all of you for watching, and thanks to the supporters of Nightmind on Patreon. They empower more videos and the Nightmind Index, very recently updated with a lot of new projects, and you can see their names at the end of this video. This completes our tour of Pendog Creative Library. I invite you now, for anything that has caught your interest and a deeper exploration and enriching experience, go in there, use Minerva Woelfel's toolkit, and then share that experience with somebody you know will be as thrilled as you were. Or maybe just a little curious. Thanks again for joining me in the dark this spring evening. I'm Nick Nocturne, and I invite you to explore with me again soon. Now go on, enjoy your journey in Pendog Creative Library and the Factory Gardens in the Miss Hecate update and beyond, and sleep tight.